And the award for Best Story to feature the 13th Doctor goes to... Twice Upon a Time. What? Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereupon. Welcome to the Verities, a time-honoured tradition going back 5 minutes ago. As I'm sure you're aware, one popular form of content that YouTubers like to make all the time is lists of best stories for each respective, usually numbered Doctor. It's almost a rite of passage or a symptom that belongs on the Diagnostic Statistics Manual. When I watched you guys do all of these, it looked so easy. Oops. It's so common that there's already plenty of variation. I could pick 5 stories to talk about, 3 stories to talk about, I could rank entire eras, but none of these formats are achingly self-important and gimmicky enough to fit with my brand. And between the expanded media and the stories penned by fans, there's just too many stories out there that deserve celebration. So for all of these reasons, and to minimize indifference as much as possible, I've gathered as many lovely people as I could to invent a bunch of imaginary accolades. We all have our favourites and our least favourites, and we generally have very different ideas of what makes a good episode of Doctor Who. So this should be interesting. And coming up first, it's JoshCarr. Please take it away, Josh.
And thank you. Who's hosting this? Who's hosting? Is it Jack Reeves? It's usually Jack Reeves. Right. Yeah. No, I can't stand up. I'm naked from the waist down. Completely. Yep, no pants. Yeah. Okay. Ben, thank you, Ben. Now, I'm JoshCarr, the host of Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast, and over on my pod, we're all about celebrating the best of our creative fandom. Some of the best Who I've ever seen comes from fans, whether it be exhausted supplies, infiltration of the Daleks, and every single Evil Dan meme in existence. But today I wanted to celebrate the fans that have gone great lengths to fill the gaps between series in the 13th Doctor's era, especially when the amount of expanded media that we were getting has slowed slightly. That's why I'm here to present the Fine We'll Do It Ourselves award to Will Carlyle, aka Mr. TARDIS, for The Collateral of Ivanhoe. Now, it's well known that I only get suited and booted for the best Doctor Who stories around, and The Collateral of Ivanhoe is one of my favourite 13th Doctor stories, full stop. Not just fan productions or expanded media, just in general. What I love is that it does what a lot of the books and comics have done with the 13th Doctor and explore different potential aspects of her personality that give her a bit more depth in her early days, especially when it comes to righting her own wrongs. There's some great character stuff with the companions too, and for me this is proof that this TARDIS team wasn't necessarily overstuffed, but just mismanaged sometimes. Yaz shines. There's even hints that you could take to be the dawn of Phasmin, with a brilliant scene regarding trust that I'm not going to spoil here, but it goes down as a definitive 13th Doctor moment for me. I've also just noticed this my ring light is reflected in my glasses. It's very irritating. Sorry, Ben. Anyway, that on top of the fantastic original setting, a smorgasbord of memorable and fleshed out supporting characters, amazing voice actors, a wonderful soundscape, and a real successful effort to capture the vibe of the 13th Doctor's era, it just makes for a fantastic listen. So go and check it out. That is the winner of the Fine We'll Do It Ourselves award. Will, you nailed it.
One question I've desperately been trying to answer for months is, what's the definitive 13th Doctor story? What's the archetypal one? What's one we could point to and say, that sums up the era pretty well, even if it's not my personal favourite? I wanted to choose something that dealt at least a little bit with the Timeless Children, given how much of the era and the discourse around it it's occupied. So what was the best take on that particular idea? I would like to present the Definite Article Award to Once Upon a Time. I mean, think about it. It's a creative vision that we definitely wouldn't be getting from Russell T Davies or Stephen Moffat. Unmistakably from the same writer as The Timeless Children, but it is an improvement on form. It's also a bit of a time capsule, which is something I'm going to be factoring in on these awards from now on. Even if it's not a developed theme, you can really tell this was made during the pandemic. There's a lot of other strengths on display, like Chris Chibnall's realization of these ancient, powerful, mysterious civilizations from the dawn of time, and 13 being ready to throw her life away, frantically demanding answers. It's the most character-focused and drama escalation that I think we've ever gotten from this arc. And I quite liked the misdirect with Belle, grounding all of these weird sci-fi nonsense ideas with a love story is a move I can thoroughly respect. Wait. It's a tie. Terror of the Yum-Ums should also be talked about in terms of stories that really define the 13th Doctor. The best way to describe it without giving anything away is, imagine if Stephen Moffat built a short story out of the speech that 12 gave at the end of Twice Upon a Time. So much has been talked about how Whittaker was a really great ambassador for the show and how much of a great role model she was to kids. And what writer understands the value of the Doctor as a children's hero better than Stephen Moffat? He is absolutely writing for the Doctor that comforted kids during the pandemic. Between this and Once Upon a Time, you really do have a complete picture of the 13th Doctor, I feel. And up next, it's... Okay, I know this is low-hanging fruit, but how do you think John Travolta would say The Wheel in Space?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kingdom, or as I may be better known, Wheel. To jump right in, I will introduce my first award. I make it no secret that I am the Hartnell Who fan, and I believe that 13's era comes the closest to achieving the same sense of optimism and exploration out of the whole of New Who. Both 1 and 13 are morally dubious little gremlins, and their eras are defined by their amazing historicals. This is what our next award is about. The nominations for the Hartnell Bait Award are Demons of the Punjab, a beautifully shot, groundbreaking masterpiece, which shows partition from the perspective of those it most affected, the Witchfinders.
But true knowledge has to be earned.
The best guest cast of all of New Who, and some of its most interesting character depictions. A story ironically full of life. Rosa.
I haven't done anything.
An episode that shows why historicals are so important to Doctor Who, and one which handles its subject matter ever so skillfully. And the winner of this award is... Demons of the Punjab. For our next award, we look at one of the most important parts of 13's era, 13 and Yaz's relationship, otherwise known as Phasmin. As a lesbian myself, and my introduction to Doctor Who being through the Phasmi community, I have seen the great impact of their relationship. Having a sapphic relationship being at the forefront of the biggest TV show in the UK was a game changer, and having one of those characters being Asian gave representation to one of the most underrepresented groups in media. The nominations for the Inventing Lesbianism Award are Legend of the Sea Devils.
I wish. You can't say you wish out loud. That's where I'm from.
An episode which holds some of my favourite Doctor Who scenes of all time. The beach scene will be in my heart forever. Evil the Daleks.
I've never told anyone. Not even myself.
An episode that changed the lives of so many. Yaz's conversation with Dan inspired and comforted countless people. Also earned me some trying to be supportive stares from my mother when it aired. Power of the Doctor. Though destroying lesbians in other areas, R.I.P. Tissa, Power of the Doctor gave us a heartbreaking ending to his influential relationship, and enough edit material to last past these decades. Also, the runner-up for this award, Suit 13 in Woman Who Fell to Earth, who I'm sure invented many lesbians around the country. And the winner of this award is... Eva the Dalek. Thank you all, you've been an amazing audience. That's it for me. And now for something completely different.
So these next two awards kind of go together. We have the funny one and the not so funny one. As I've mentioned before, there are two types of Chris Chibnall. BAFTA bait Chris and wacky Chris. And aren't we lucky just to have both? Aren't we lucky, folks? And say what you like about his era, there were plenty of funny episodes, intentionally and unintentionally. Either the Daleks fridged the titular villains in favour of being a rom-com that happened to reflect the dilemmas of its own characters, or the Sontarans, as I'm on record as saying, dared to remember that the potato spacemen were actually comedy villains, who died and made him Robert Holmes. I was almost going to give it to Blackest Friday, penned by fan of the show Samuel Davis. To be honest, I preferred his early work.
And every time I do.
As for the serious one, Demons of the Punjab, what else was it going to be? A Chibnall production in Broadchurch BAFTA bait mode is probably an ideal pairing for historicals that are trying to be about the experiences of marginalised people. Demons of the Punjab is easily the most embraced story in Chibnall's run, and for very good reasons. Here's hoping we get more like it in the next era. So, apparently I don't think I got the funny one right, so someone else is gonna, correct me on this one. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to pretend to fall over now. It's a reference, I think.
Look, if there's one thing that I, Samuel Davis, of the woefully declining YouTube channel Davis, am very passionate about, we all know it's Chibnall scripts. I love a good laugh. Look at me. Do I look like I don't like a good laugh? And that's why it's my proud duty today to present the award for the funny one. And it was written by Chris Chibnall. In part, I've been an unforgiving Praxia stan since day one, since release, just because I thought it was charming, ambitious, it set out to do everything that the Chibnall era to that point had tried and strived to do. It feels like all the Chibnall playbook finally working. It's every single trope, a big expansive cast and country hopping, and not having enough time to establish a plot, so you're really just TARDIS hopping everywhere you can go. Piling on as many characters as possible and having the Doctor directly tell you the moral and the subtext of the story, because there's not really that much else going on. And you know what? Praxis is not a profound story. It's the funny one. There's so many funny lines. The talking cat on Ontario. 13 thinks a real talking cat is part of the villain plan, because these stories are so scattered, it honestly could have been in a Chibnall script. No, Doctor, I promise that is just a video you found online. As Yaz thinking she's discovered an alien planet, only to see Mandip Jill sell real disappointment when it turns out she's still on Earth. We're married. We're separated. Well, one uses him for a shock. Oi, I'm not full of plastic. You're full of something. I can remember these, which is crazy because I can't remember the third act to most Chris Chibnall penned stories. Ryan's always been a very charming young man. You just have a bloke, and he just stands there going, catch me up on this. It's Companion 101, sure, I'm not refuting that, but Ryan in this story particularly is just having none of the Doctor's technobabbling. He's begging to be filled in because there's so much actual real science being thrown at him every single second. It's a mad little story and it keeps up the pace really nicely, and this is, I think, carried largely because it's got a sense of humour. On the page, it's basically the same as The Woman Who Fell to Earth, but because it's got so much more of a pulse, it feels more confident. Having real people makes so much of the difference. It's the one time in the Chibnall era where I'm like, yeah, I could probably see these three as companions, but I like all the gang. Having a story this sprawling and scattershot it feels intentional, which is quite a good thing to have in a Doctor Who script. And it feels like every single character is here for good reason, does their little bit, adds their little bit to the story, and then has to carry on, because just like 42 all those years ago, Chris Chibnall is running on adrenaline. Without the human touch, without Graham and Ryan and Yaz there, this story would be too dry. I know that because it's not my kind of story, but the fact that I do gravitate towards it so much in what is definitely my least favourite season means that, yeah, it deserves a trophy. There's something here that really clicked, and I wish it had been the kind of, foot forward we'd had during the rest of the era. So yeah, Praxius, when a world-spreading contagion could still be joked about. There's nothing funnier than self-fulfilling prophecies. Don't know whether it deserves 2007 backstroke second place, but it deserves a trophy.
The next two awards are Newcomer Friendly. That one's pretty self-explanatory. How would you introduce a new fan to this era? What makes the best first impression? And then we have Outside the Box. Do you get it? Outside the box? TARDIS is a box? These are for stories that feel the most unique and experimental in the particular era, whether that's down to the vision of a guest writer or even a director. The Mistress of Chaos is essentially the best season arc that has not been put to screen. It was penned even before The Woman Who Fell to Earth, so in my eyes, it does make the best entrance to this era and to this Doctor. As for Hidden Human History, while it might not be as radical as something like The Doctor's Wife or Warrior's Gate in terms of unique visions that reinvent the show, it's a fun, likeable change of pace featuring some of the best Doctor moments and monsters that we've ever seen. Imagine if a Russell T Davies-esque arc was just a podcast that kept turning up. It's weirdness like that we could always strive to do more in Doctor Who. And next up, it's... Oh, darn. Really? Another reference? I'm not saying I'm the host, I can't be played off.
And that is why it's Jodie Whittaker's fault that so many young men have turned to crime now. And really, we can only put crimes such as genocide and other atrocities at her door. I'm joking, mate. Obviously I'm joking. But I've genuinely nothing good to say about her event. Robin? Oh, great. I seem to have lost him on the video. Where are you? Wait, who are you? No, get out of my house. I mean, what are you... No! Leave me... Help! Help! So it appears I've once again been kidnapped by 13th Doctor fans. The last time was when I said something about, can you hear me? But, no, please don't hurt my wife or my family, no! It gives me great pleasure and honour to discuss the wonderful parts of the 13th Doctor's era. And my goodness, there are plenty of them, obviously. However, as brilliant as many of her stories on TV have been, she's also sung amazingly in the expanded media. And the way I see it is, if there's a meal in one restaurant and I eat it there, I might enjoy eating it somewhere else as well. It's the same concept. For me, when I didn't get it so much on TV, the 13th Doctor was absolutely just hitting it out of the park in expanded media. What I think deters so many people from getting into the EU is this sort of venomous concept that anything but the show doesn't count. And I've said it many times before, I think we need to be sort of post-canon. And to that end, it gives me great honour to present the What is Canon Award. There are 5 nominees here, but I could have added more. I've just gone for these as ones which really stood out to me. Doctor Who New Series novels, At Childhood's End by Sophie Aldred, Mike Tucker and Steve Cole. Panini Comics, Doctor Who Magazine's Mistress of Chaos by Scott Gray and John Ross. BBC Sounds podcast, Doctor Who Redacted by Ella Watts and head writer Juno Dawson. Doctor Who New Series novels, The Good Doctor by Juno Dawson. And BBC New Series Anthologies, From That, Fellow Traveller by Mark Gatiss. And the winner of the What is Canon Award goes to The Good Doctor by Juno Dawson. I really couldn't have picked anything other than this. It's so strange that this gives us, in my opinion, a more rounded and complete Doctor than anything we saw in Series 11 and Series 12. And I loved a lot of those adventures. And Juno Dawson somehow constructed this amazing 13th Doctor character with these moments, which she did just by looking at little script extracts from a series that hadn't even been filmed yet. In my mind, it's the absolute definitive 13th Doctor adventure. If you just have been lacking or not found what you've wanted for the 13th Doctor's era, go and pick up this book because Juno Dawson just captures it. And I'm telling you now, Russell, remember Juno Dawson, because how she didn't get to write an episode is beyond me. Okay, is that good? Will you let me go now? Can I see my wife and family? No, no, don't come at me with a gun. No, no, no!
Speaking of Juno Dawson, my final award is Dr. Ware. Stories that are defined by the Doctor's absence. You know, maybe a Dr. Light episode or a spin-off attached to the era. And what else could I give to this other than Doctor Who Redacted? It deserves all the praise it's been getting, some of the most real-feeling characters that we've ever had in the Whoniverse, some great cliffhangers, and a pretty effective mystery. If you haven't listened to it already, go check it out. Last but certainly not least, it's Lucy. Please, take it away, Lucy.
Hello, I'm Lucylicious, and I am going to present the most exciting award for the most exciting story. Extreme. Ooh. And the winner. Oh, how exciting! It's two winners. It's the Halloween Apocalypse and the Flux. Yeah! Relentless chaotic pacing. Jaw-dropping visuals. A story that raises more intriguing questions than Ghostlight. Series 13 is an exciting rollercoaster ride of intrigue and vibes. You can say what you want about the payoff, but if you can't enjoy the vibes, then you will never learn to love Moffat finales. I'm going to take you through how it felt watching the Halloween Apocalypse for the first time, and how it still feels. It pretty much represents how I feel about most episodes in Series 13. But before I do, I just want to say, I am autistic, and when I get overloaded, it's very hard to find a safe way of coping. The relentless pacing of this episode-long trailer for the entire series is sometimes the only thing that can calm me down.
Whoa, who the hell is this? A bed and handcuffs? Let's go! Phasmin confirmed! Who is this mole man who speaks like the potion seller in the famous comedic potion seller video? Why all this digging? Look at them, they're so sweet. I hope their date goes well. Who's this creep? How does he know the Doctor? Wow, he's a deadly boy. And wow, those effects are incredible. That's a great costume. Yes, I gaze upon your might. Why doesn't that work on Dan? Who is he? Is he the Master? Is he the Doctor? That's a lot of ships. The Earth is doomed. Why is she so angry? Oh, that was badass. Who is this supremely acted, intriguing mystery woman? I must know. I love the chunk. Whoa, Weeping Angel done well. Who's this? Is he the Doctor? Oh my god, baby, it's the Flux. A callback. I know what a hopper-virus is. Wow, species bonded. How does that even work? I love it. Wow, look at the Flux. Santa ha, damn, they look good. Oh yeah, give us that tongue. It's the Flux again. Oh, it's moving quick. Wow, that looked amazing. Holy shit, he's back. He has such presence. Who is he? How does he know the Doctor? He looks amazing. Oh, I love their dynamic. Wait, the mallet hurts the TARDIS? What? Holy hell, Azure looks amazing. Wow, that was some satisfying clinking. Oh no, the TARDIS door. Oh no, she smashed it up. Wow, time vortex energy. Whoa, breathtaking. Oh no, the Flux. Whoa, so many cliffhangers. Oh wow, what a line. Mwah. Oh wow, the Flux, baby. Let's go.
Nah, I may have lied about all that. The person who truly won the most exciting award, you know who truly won it? Oh, actually, it was your mum.
And there we have it, folks. If you've not checked out the 13th Doctor era yet, or you've not checked out some of these stories yet, the list of them is right there, and we hope you have fun. Thank you to everyone who was involved in this video. It was such a pleasure working with you all. And that's why I'm afraid to say this is where my goodwill towards the 13th Doctor era ends. I'm afraid now that I've lured in all of its fans and have started leeching off them for my own nefarious purposes, I can drop all pretense of being nice. You see, goodwill, like Tissa and my bank balance, eventually runs out. Every tweet I make, every video I upload will be dedicated to relentless screed towards this Doctor. And so what follows will be a horrendous barrage of abuse and a horrendous campaign of insults, all to satisfy my sense of moral outrage, my need to procrastinate over my coursework, and my dopamine and attention addiction. For the people on Doctor Who Twitter, however, life will continue as normal. And now everyone who worked with me on this will basically have the same PR as Pontius Pilate. To use some political jargon, your brands will be taking a right dicking. You'll be dodging questions and performing verbal gymnastics for the rest of your careers. I mean, look what's already gone on in this video. Look what you signed off on. There's been partial nudity, violence, kidnapping, and someone even tried to claim that the definitive 13th Doctor story was written by Stephen Moffat. Your best course of action will be to disown me as soon as you possibly can. See you guys in the next one.